You wake up exhausted, you drag yourself through the day, and by the evening you tell yourself you need self-care, so you scroll, you buy something, you escape, and for a moment it works. But the next morning, the weight is back exactly where you left it, because what modern life calls self-care was never designed to restore you. It was designed to keep you just functional enough to continue the cycle. The Japanese understood something fundamentally different, not self-care as recovery after the damage. Self-care is woven into every morning so completely that the damage never accumulates. In Edo Japan, a craftsman named Kenji began every morning with 7 practices that gave his body and mind what they needed before the day asked anything of him. Not a samurai, not a monk, an ordinary man who made bowls from clay. And the quality of his days came directly from 47 minutes every morning that belonged entirely to preparation. This is his morning and yours. Subscribe and let's begin the story. Kenji's morning, 1720 Edo, Japan. Kenji is a potter. He has a small workshop on a narrow street in the eastern part of the city. He makes bowls, cups, and water vessels. Simple things, well made. People come from several streets away to buy his work. He is not wealthy. He is not a warrior or a scholar. He is an ordinary man in his 40s who wakes up every morning before dawn and moves through his day with a quality of presence that his neighbors notice without being able to name. His morning begins the same way every day, not from habit, from understanding. Practice 1, Mo, opening the window, the Japanese practice of ventilation as renewal. Kenji wakes before the light changes. The room is dark and still. The air inside is the air of sleep, heavy, used, carrying the weight of the night. The first thing he does is open the window. Not widely, just enough. Cool morning air enters the room. The air of sleep moves outward. Kenji stands at the window for a moment, not looking at anything in particular, just breathing, feeling the shift. This is Moke literally opening the window. But in practice, it is more than ventilation. The Japanese understanding of air quality goes back centuries. The concept of key life energy extends to the air itself. Stale indoor air carries with it the residue of sleep, the exhalations of the night, the accumulated stillness of hours of unconsciousness. Opening the window is not just about oxygen. It is about renewal, about beginning the day with fresh input rather than yesterday's remnants. There is something in this act that goes beyond the physical. Standing at the open window in the early morning, before the city has fully woken, before the demands of the day have begun arriving, there is a specific quality of stillness available. Not the stillness of sleep, which is unconscious, the stillness of a person who is awake and present before being required to do anything. Kenji stands there for perhaps 3 minutes, then he begins. For you today, before you reach for your phone, before coffee, before anything else, open a window. Stand near it for 2 minutes. Not scrolling, not planning, just breathing the outside air and letting the air of sleep leave the room. This costs nothing. It takes 2 minutes. And it shifts something in the quality of how the morning begins that is difficult to explain until you have experienced it. The day that begins with fresh air begins differently from the day that begins inside yesterday's atmosphere. Practice 2, Mizu no Gi, the morning water ritual. Internal purification before the day begins. After the window, Kenji moves to the water vessel he prepared the night before. Room temperature water drawn from the well the previous evening and left to settle overnight. He drinks 1 cup slowly, standing without rushing toward the next thing. This is Mizu no Gi, the morning water ritual. In Japanese tradition, water has always carried significance beyond hydration. The concept of purification through water is woven throughout Japanese culture. From the ritual of misogi, purification by water, to the simple daily practice of drinking water before anything else enters the body. After 8 hours of sleep, the body is dehydrated. The digestive system is dormant. The organs that process and eliminate have been working through the night and need to be flushed and activated. Drinking water before anything else gives the body the one thing it most needs in that moment, but there is more to it than physiology. The act of drinking water slowly, standing present before the day has begun, is itself a small act of intention. You are not consuming something for pleasure or stimulation. You are giving the body what it needs simply. Before asking anything of it, Kenji drinks his water and sets the cup down. He does not think about his work yet. He does not review the day's tasks. He is simply a body that has just woken, receiving what it needs to begin for you today. Before coffee, before your phone, before anything else. 1 glass of water, room temperature if possible, cold if not. Drink it standing, not scrolling, not planning, just drinking. The coffee will come, the phone will come, the demands will come. Give the body water first, it has been waiting for it all night. Practice 3. Asahi, the morning light, synchronizing the body with the natural world. Kenji steps outside, not for long, 5 minutes. He stands in the small courtyard behind his workshop as the light begins to change. The sky has been dark. Now it shifts toward gray, then toward the pale orange of early dawn. He does not stare at the sun, he simply stands in the changing light, face toward the east, breathing slowly. This is Asahi, morning sunlight. And in Japanese tradition, it is treated not as a pleasant experience, but as a biological necessity. The human body runs on light, specifically on the information that light carries about what time it is. The circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs when you feel awake, when you feel tired, when your body temperature rises and falls, when your hormones shift. This clock is set and reset every morning by light entering the eyes. When you wake up and spend the first hour indoors under artificial light, your circadian clock receives no clear signal. The body does not know what time it is. The day begins in a kind of biological confusion that takes hours to resolve, if it resolves at all. Kenji does not know the word circadian. He knows that standing in the morning light makes him feel awake and clear in a way that staying indoors does not. He knows that the mornings when rain or obligation prevents him from going outside are mornings when the day feels different, heavier, less defined. So he goes outside every morning before the work begins, before the customers arrive, before anything else requires his attention. He stands in the morning light and lets the day begin in his body before it begins in his life. For you today, within the first 30 minutes of waking, get natural light on your face. Step outside if possible, even for 5 minutes, even in cold weather, even in a city. If outside is not possible, sit near a window where natural light enters, not a lamp, natural light. This is not about getting fresh air, though that helps too. This is about giving your internal clock the signal it needs to set the rhythm of your day. The days when you get morning light feel different from the days when you do not dramatically but consistently. Over time, the difference accumulates into something significant. Practice 4. Soji, cleaning as meditation, ordering the external to settle the internal. When Kenji returns inside, he cleans not because the space is dirty. He cleaned it the evening before. He cleans it now because this is what every morning requires. The workshop floor is swept first. Slow, deliberate strokes, not rushing to finish and move on to something else. Present with the movement of the broom, the sound of it on the wooden floor, the small accumulation of dust that is there every morning, regardless of how carefully the evening clean was done. Then the surfaces, the table where he works, the shelves where the finished pieces sit, the tools arranged in their places. This takes perhaps 15 minutes, not more. This is Soji. In Zen temples, monks sweep the grounds every morning without exception. Not because the grounds are dirty, because the act of sweeping is itself the practice. The external ordering that produces internal ordering, the attention brought to the physical space that settles the attention available for everything that follows. There is a principle embedded in Soji that most people in modern life have forgotten. The state of your environment is the state of your mind made visible. A cluttered space does not just reflect a cluttered mind, it actively produces one. Every item out of place is a small demand on your attention. Every surface in disorder is a low-level signal to your nervous system that something needs to be done. Multiply this by 100 objects in a disordered room and the cumulative effect is a mind that cannot settle. Soji reverses this. When Kenji finishes his morning cleaning, the workshop is exactly as it should be. Every surface in order, every tool in its place, the floor clean, the air clear. He can now begin his work from stillness rather than from chaos. The external order has produced internal order, not as a metaphor, as a real effect on how the mind operates in the space it inhabits. The Zen masters who swept their temples every morning were not performing ritual for its own sake. They were building the conditions for clear thought. You cannot think clearly in disorder. The mind mirrors its environment. If you want clarity in the work, you must first create clarity in the space where the work happens. Kenji sweeps his floor and wipes his surfaces. Not because they are dirty, but because the act of doing so settles something in him that the day will require. For you today. 15 minutes every morning before work, before sitting at a desk or opening a laptop, make the bed, wipe the kitchen counter. Clear the table, sweep or vacuum the floor of one room, not a deep clean. A daily maintenance clean, the same surfaces, the same order every morning. This is not about cleanliness. It is about beginning the day's work from an ordered environment that supports rather than undermines the attention you will need for everything that follows. The 15 minutes you spend cleaning every morning will return themselves many times over in the quality of focus available for the rest of the day. Kenji is halfway through his morning and has not yet touched his work. Everything he has done has been preparation, not for productivity, for presence. If this is changing how you see your own morning, like this video, one tap tells the algorithm this matters. Now we continue. Practice 5, Rajio Taiso movement without force. Waking the body gently before demanding anything from it. After the cleaning, Kenji moves outside again, this time to the small open space beside the workshop. He moves through a sequence of gentle movements, neck rotations, shoulder circles, side bends, hip circles, knee bends, ankle rotations. The sequence takes perhaps 5 minutes. The movements are slow and deliberate, not exercise, not training movement. This is the principle that would eventually become Ryoiso, the national Japanese morning movement practice broadcast on radio since 1928, but the understanding behind it goes back much further. In Japanese martial tradition and in the daily life of ordinary Japanese people, there has always been an understanding of the body as a system that needs to be woken gradually rather than forced into activity. After sleep, the body is not ready for demand. The joints are stiff. The synovial fluid that lubricates them has settled overnight. The muscles are contracted from hours of limited movement. The nervous system is still transitioning from the repair mode of sleep to the engagement mode of waking life. When you force activity on a body in this state, whether through an intense workout or simply through the sustained demands of sitting at a desk, you are demanding performance from a system that has not been prepared to perform. Kenji moves gently through every major joint, not to stretch, to wake, to circulate, to remind the body that it is a moving system about to be asked to move. 5 minutes, no sweat, no strain, just the body being asked gently to begin for you today before sitting at a desk, before starting work, before the demands of the day begin. 5 minutes of gentle movement through every major joint, neck, shoulders, spine, hips, knees, ankles, slow circles, no forcing, no pain. This is not a workout, it is preparation. The body that has been gently woken performs differently from the body that has been forced into activity from a cold start. You will feel the difference immediately, and over weeks the accumulated effect of this daily preparation changes how the body feels throughout the day. Practice 6, Mokuso, stillness before the day. The 2 minutes that change everything that follows. Before Kenji begins his work, he sits. He does not sit to meditate in any formal sense. He simply sits on the floor of his workshop facing the window where morning light enters and is still. 2 minutes, perhaps 3. No task, no plan, no review of what the day requires. Just sitting, breathing, present. This is Mokuso, literally silent thinking. In Japanese martial arts, it is practiced before every training session. In Zen temples, it is the transition between the activities of the morning and the work of the day. It is the moment of deliberate stillness that separates what has been from what is about to begin. The purpose of Mokuso is not relaxation. It is not meditation in the full sense. It is the specific practice of arriving in the present moment before being required to act in it. Most people begin their work while their mind is still elsewhere, still in the fragments of a dream, still in the conversation they had the night before. still in the anticipation of something later in the day. The body is at the desk, but the mind has not arrived yet, and work done from that scattered state is different from work done from genuine presence. Not worse in terms of output necessarily, but different in quality. More effortful, less connected, more reactive to interruption, less able to sustain the kind of deep attention that good work requires. Mokuso is the arrival. 2 minutes of sitting still with no task and no goal, just being present in the space where the work will happen, letting the mind settle into the moment before the moment requires anything of it. Think of it as the space between the morning and the day. The morning has been preparation. The day is about to begin. Mokuso is the threshold between them. The deliberate pause that separates what has been from what is about to be. Without it, the morning and the work run together and neither is quite complete. With it, there is a clear line. The morning ended, the work begins. From here, too, Kenji sits. The light comes through the window. The sounds of the street outside arrive and pass. The workshop is in order. The body is awake. The mind has arrived. He opens his eyes and begins his work for you today. Before you open your laptop, before you start your first task, before the day begins in earnest, 2 minutes of sitting still, not meditating, not planning, not reviewing. Just sitting in the space where you will work, breathing, present. Set a timer if it helps, 2 minutes, no phone, no task, let the mind arrive before requiring it to perform. The work that begins from this stillness is different from the work that begins from scattered momentum, not more intense, more present. And presence is the variable that determines the quality of everything that follows. Practice 7, Itadakimasu, gratitude before the first meal, receiving what sustains you. Kenji's wife has prepared the morning meal while he was moving through his practices. Rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, simple food, the same most mornings. Kenji sits before the meal and pauses. He does not pray, he does not perform a ritual, he simply pauses for a moment before eating. Itadakimasu, I humbly receive. This is perhaps the most misunderstood of the 7 practices because it looks like the smallest. A pause before eating, a few seconds, what could that possibly change? Everything. It turns out the act of pausing before the first meal of the day is not about gratitude as a performance. It is not religious. It is about a specific shift in how you receive what sustains you. Most people eat their first meal of the day automatically, scrolling, standing over the sink, walking to a meeting. The food enters the body without awareness. The nourishment happens without acknowledgement. The meal is fuel consumed, not food received. Itadakimasu interrupts this automatic consumption. The pause, even 3 seconds, even silent, creates a moment of acknowledgement. This food was grown somewhere. Someone prepared it. It will become my energy, my thoughts, my movement. Today I am receiving something that sustains my life. In that acknowledgement, something shifts. The nervous system settles slightly. The digestive system, which functions best in a parasympathetic state rather than the sympathetic state of stress and hurry, receives the signal that it can operate as it is designed to. But beyond the physiology, there is something simpler. The day that begins with a moment of acknowledgement before the first meal begins differently from the day that begins with food consumed unconsciously. Something in the quality of the morning is different, more intentional, more present, as though the act of receiving food with awareness has set a tone for how the rest of the day will be received. Kenji has eaten the same breakfast most mornings of his adult life. Rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, simple food well prepared. He has never once eaten it automatically. Every morning, the same pause, the same acknowledgement, the same receiving. He does not think of this as a spiritual practice. It is simply how meals work, how they have always worked in his world. For you today, before your first meal of the day, pause 3 seconds, 5 seconds, as long as feels right. Look at what is in front of you. Acknowledge it silently. Let the awareness of what you are about to receive be present for 1 moment before you begin eating. Then eat not while scrolling, not standing over the kitchen counter. Sit, receive, begin the day from that receiving. This is the simplest of the 7 practices and often the one that produces the most immediate and noticeable shift in how the morning feels. What Kenji's morning actually looked like, let us put it together. Kenji wakes before dawn, total time from waking to beginning work approximately 45 minutes. 5 minutes at the open window breathing morning air, 1 cup of water drunk slowly standing, 10 minutes outside in the morning light, 15 minutes of cleaning the workshop. 5 minutes of gentle movement through every joint, 2 minutes of sitting still before work, 10 minutes eating the morning meal with presence, 47 minutes. None of it was exercise in the modern sense. None of it was meditation in the formal sense. None of it was optimization or productivity or performance. All of it was alignment. The body and mind being given what they needed in the specific transition from night to day. Before being asked to produce anything, before being required to perform, before the world made its demands, the quality of Kenji's days was not separate from the quality of his mornings. The clarity with which he worked his clay, the patience with which he shaped each piece, the steadiness he brought to his craft across decades, these were not personality traits he was born with. They were the product of 47 minutes every morning that gave his body and mind what they needed before asking them to give anything back. What this means for you, you do not need 47 minutes. Start with one practice, the one that feels most foreign to how your mornings currently work. That foreignness is information. It points toward the gap between what your morning currently provides and what your body and mind actually need. If you reach for your phone the moment you wake, start with open the window. Stand near it for 2 minutes before touching the phone, see what shifts. If you feel foggy and slow for the first hour of every day, start with Asahi. Get outside in the morning light for 10 minutes. Do this for 1 week and notice what happens to the fog. If your mind feels scattered when you sit down to work, start with Mokuso, 2 minutes of stillness before the first task. No phone, no task, just sitting, 1 week. If you feel disconnected from your food, from your body, from the basic act of sustaining yourself, start with Itadakimasu 3 seconds before your first meal every day. If your space feels chaotic and your thoughts mirror it, start with Soji 15 minutes of morning cleaning every day, not deep cleaning, maintenance. One practice first, 1 week, then add another. The reason this approach works where most morning routines fail is that each of these practices is designed for the specific moment it occupies. Madoake is for the first minute of waking. Mizu is for the body that has been fasting all night. Asahi is for the internal clock that needs to be set. Soji is for the mind that needs external order before it can produce internal order. Rajio Taiso is for the body that needs to be woken gently. Mokuso is for the threshold between preparation and work. Itadakimasu is for the act of receiving what sustains you. Each one occupies its specific place in the morning and does something that nothing else in that moment does. Together they produce a morning that gives the body and mind what they need before requiring them to give anything back. Kenji did this every morning for decades. Not because he had discovered a self-care practice, because this was simply how mornings worked, how they had worked for the people before him. How they worked for everyone in his world who understood that the quality of the day is built in the morning, not recovered in the evening. The evening practices that complete the system are in part 2, but start here with the morning. One practice tomorrow morning, then another. In 1720 Edo, Kenji had no concept of morning routines or self-optimization or wellness habits. He had 47 minutes every morning that belonged entirely to the preparation of his body and mind for the day ahead, not for productivity, not for performance, for alignment. The 7 practices he moved through were not things he had read about or been taught as a system. They were simply what mornings had always looked like in his world. What generations before him had understood without formal explanation about what the body and mind need in the transition from night to day. Modern life has replaced most of these practices with screens and coffee and the immediate management of whatever arrived overnight. The result is visible everywhere. People who wake up already behind, already reactive, already managing rather than living, already in debt to a day that has not yet properly begun. The morning does not have to start this way. 7 practices, 47 minutes, not optimization, alignment. The morning that aligns you changes the day that follows. The day that follows changes the life being built from it. Comment below. I give my morning what it needs. Part 2. The 7 Ancient Japanese Evening Practices coming next week. Subscribe to Bulk Belt Discipline for ancient wisdom tested by time and confirmed by science. Kenji began his work every morning from Stillness. The work showed it. Yours can too.